After thinking about it more, I think actually drugs. My uncle has been on 40 tablets. There was a time, many years, where he was taking 40 tablets a day, and I feel like actually that is probably a big cause of his downfall. Um, I have just a memory of someone saying that what's it? He was on lithium, and that's a very powerful drug. And I know Britney didn't like it, and Kanye West didn't like it because it numbs the brain or something, and it turns people into zombies. And yeah, come to think about it, I think my uncle would have done so much better if only it was understood, if mental illness was understood. I think when he went through his mental illness phase, they people didn't understand it, and they because they had drugs. I feel like I don't know when treating drugs with mental illness really came about. I mean, I think he was a doctor who worked on mental illness, but I think at that time the drugs were very mostly herbs and stuff. And locking. I think he tried the notion of locking people in a box for 2 days without food, only water, and I feel like that definitely was not the right method. But thing is, something like that would snap you out of people are doing bad things to me. Now, if I don't start acting sane, I'm not. I'm going to go back in there. That's a terrible way to treat mental illness, by keeping them in a box for a long time. But you don't want to be in that box. I know there's another one which is sticking the needle in the eye, which that to me sounds like nonsense. Like, why would you think that would work? Piercing the brain or something. I mean, I don't like anything to do with the eyes, so I really don't want to think about that. But I think if something like that has happened to you, it would cause so much kind of trauma in you that you would just be like, right, there is something wrong with these people, and I'm going to just calm down, and I'm just going to do whatever I can to be as normal as possible. And anything I say, this is how autism is caused, actually. And a type of autism might be caused by people thinking you've got some sort of mental disorder and then torturing you to try and heal you, and that this isn't going to heal you, and it didn't heal you, but afterwards you just feel so like frightened over what they might do to you if they think that you've got mental illness, that you're going to I'm not going to do anything that will sound mentally ill, or anything that would come off as being mentally ill. These people are obviously mentally ill freaks, but they think that I'm the mentally ill one. And if I can imagine, I'm getting visions of this. I think my uncle is an interesting one, because I think he had a life when he was treating mentally ill patients, but he was doing it very badly. And I'm trying to think about the people that he treated, and how would they feel. I think it really depends on what kind of mental illness you've got. If you've developed a mental illness because you believe in demons and all sorts of nonsense, this is a type of mental illness that is that you're creating. You're believing all these lies, and it's forming your mental state to just not be stable, and to not see or trust or associate with people. But then there's another type of mental illness, which is just depression, feeling like you don't want to be here, and then to have people or to start seeing something that isn't actually there. Maybe you're just tired, but someone could see that as a mental illness and then try treating you, and then you're just like, well, what the fuck are you doing to me? What? Okay, I'm never going to go into that. I'm never going to talk to people. If I think I see a ghost, I'm never going to say it to anyone. Why? Because I don't want to go into whatever that treatment was. But yeah, I feel like with my uncle, he went through a time of believing that he can open his mind up and become smart through some sort of awake movement or whatever. And I think whatever that was, it made him a bit delusional, and then people saw this, and they saw it as mental illness, and they started giving him drugs. And because drugs were fairly new, it's a fairly he's only 50. No, he's about 60, going on 60 now. So this was about when he was 21 or something. He was at uni, first year of uni or something. So maybe even 18. It would have been 18, 19, or 19 or 20, I think. But yeah, so this was a long time ago when drugs were very experimental. But I feel like they pumped a lot of drugs into him, and I feel like it might have killed the mind. It might have, you know, you can cure something and calm people down, but if you use lithium over a long period of time, then it can cause mental illness. So I feel like I shouldn't actually look at my uncle as being, because I was wondering why. On one hand, my uncle seems very more advanced and more intelligent than my mum. He questions things a lot better. He has more determination to work out things and to see, and but then there's some things that just don't make any sense and just seem silly. But I feel like maybe I shouldn't judge or analyze him because I don't know the damage that the 40 years of lithium have caused on him. But he knows or believes that needs it, relies on it, depending on it. Is this just something that he believes, or if you're taking drugs that create certain hormones, and you've been taking them for such a long time, just coming off them means that your body doesn't know how to make them itself, and therefore you become dependent on it because you didn't know how. Hormones are created. You have to create your own hormones. You think the right things, think positively, you'll create the right hormones, and you'll get used to learning how to create the right something. Like, I believe that eating jelly babies make me feel happy. Now I don't know if there's some sort of magic chemical in a jelly baby, or if it's just my belief in believing that eating a jelly baby makes me feel happy. And I don't know if it's chemically or if it's the mind, but it works. But I'm not going to question. I want to question why, but I don't feel like I know the answers because I don't know anything about chemistry. I don't know about what it's gelatin. Is there some property in gelatin that makes people feel happy? I don't know, or do I just like the fact that they look like little people? I don't know. But I feel like when it comes to my uncle, I shouldn't really analyze too much because I don't know what drugs he really has been taking or what the side effects are. But yeah, I feel like my mum, she's not a fast developer, but at the same time, in ways she seems better than my uncle because she doesn't need all this constant government funding. She doesn't need all this, but I feel like having children actually is a help on that. If you've got a child and you hate technology but your child loves technology, you will sort of adapt and grow and think, what, my child knows how to use this phone, I'm going to learn how to use this phone. I know my mum was very, very bad at learning how to use a clicker, but I used to always make fun of her, and because of that she actually kind of learned how to use it. Kind of like her phone, she doesn't really ever remember to charge it. It's always usually dead, or very low on battery, but she knows how to open it up, she knows how to take pictures, and she knows basics. She knows more than my uncle, and I feel like partly the reason why she knows more is because I'm always on my phone and she's kind of getting jealous. And I have seen her watch, actually, she's recently learned how to open up Google or some, I don't know what it is she's watching, but sometimes I hear her listening to something on it. So she's learnt how to use a little bit, which is more than my uncle. But yeah, I feel like sometimes kids can help you develop, because you don't want your young kids to be smarter than you. You don't want your 10-year-old to be smarter than you. And if your 10-year-old knows how to do things that you can't, I feel like something like that pushes people to learn more. Whereas my uncle doesn't have any kids. I think the medicine and the constant putting down, you need help, there's something wrong with you, you're not okay. I feel like this has had a mind-blowing negative effect on his mind, hence why he's far less stable than he was in his past life. I don't believe he had any medicine in his past life, and I don't think people realise that he was mentally ill. But I don't think anyone realised that they were mentally ill back then, because stupid was just normal back then. So if someone did stupid things, I feel like you can tell the difference between stupid people and dumb people. I mean, stupid people and smart people in this world, because the gap is so big. Whereas a few hundred years ago, the gaps would have been so small, and the ability to see the gaps also would be small. We have technology now. People can use phones, some people can't. And then you think, well, why can't they? And why can't these people? Whereas back then, if you don't have a phone, then it's just, can you ride a horsey or can you not ride a horse? And if the answer is, well, I've never tried, I don't own a horse, I don't have enough money to buy a horse, and I've never been on a horse, well, you're not expecting them to learn, know how to ride. Whereas nowadays, if you can't sit on a horse and learn how to ride within a couple of minutes, or if you can't learn how to ride a bike straight away, people might start asking questions. Why can't you figure out this? Why can't you do basic things that other people can? If you've got a mental brain disorder, then that would be the reason why. But if you're just normal, and you can't do things that others can, you can see the difference between smart and dumb, and then you start asking questions. But if you don't have bicycles, if you don't have a television, if you don't have all these equipments that would help test your brain on how smart or dumb you are, then it would be very hard to see it. So in a few hundred years ago, mental illness probably didn't exist, but that's because life would have been much more simple back then. If you don't work with money, you just grow some carrots and then you sell your carrots for potatoes, and there we go, you've got carrots and potatoes now. And that was kind of, life was so much simpler that it was, if you want a job, you just got the basics. Whereas now the kind of jobs that are up and running are huge. It's not just cleaning jobs now. It's huge. If every job was just simple, build a house, clean it. Whereas building houses isn't just a case of putting a bunch of bricks together and saying it's done. Proper lamination, there's so many different things that you involves in going in building a house, that if someone can do it and someone can't, I guess you can see the difference between smart and dumb. But if 100 years ago all they had was just basic stonework, the people, the architects that built it, and then the workers that just did what they were told, it would be very hard to tell the difference between smart and dumb, and therefore mental illness probably wasn't noticeable back then. But yes, again, I'm just rambling with me and my cat.